Fall is a beautiful time of year. It's also a very busy time of year for us. We're actively getting into shipping right now. But we've spent some time over the last few days, week or so, doing some deeper renovations in the chicken yard. I thought I would like to share how that all looks. We cleared out one nursery bed and have a whole bunch of compost that's ready to extract. We renovated our walkways in here so it's drier and cleaner and is loaded with sprouts, and we thought through a little bit of an improvement on the flow of the incoming composting system as well as their water system. So I'm going to share all that in this video. Stick around. The first thing, since it's right here, is to talk about the compost in this area. So this is more or less as you first come in. You disregard that black pipe. That's a perforated drainage pipe that ran under this compost to help it drain during the wet time of year. It's filled with compost, so we're going to let that dry out and shake it out. But a few days ago, this was a nursery bed, very similar to the one right over here. I talked about this in a previous video. I'm going to link to it here. And this bed yielded, as a 4-foot by 16-foot bed, a few hundred nursery plants, some really nice looking hazelnuts, some pawpaws that were pretty decent, and some persimmons that look beautiful, all for our fall shipping and local sales. And the nice part about that is it basically used the compost that was right in the chicken yard. Same thing over here. So we'll pull that chicken wire off, we'll take apart these hoops, lay up these locust boards off to the side. We can do this again next year, no problem. Some of the trees grew so well. These are peaches that are about almost 6 feet tall in their first year from seed. We're gonna have to figure out how to tease them out from the chicken wire. Maybe we cut that off in that area. But overall, I'd say it was a really nice success to grow trees from seed right in the compost where the chickens generated. Many trees popped right through what we thought was gonna be the ceiling here. So we'll do that again for sure. If we could do it all over again, we would have a gate right at the highest point in our chicken yard and a gate at our absolute lowest point, so we could bring in fresh compost, tumble with the chickens and have it leave. But the reality is this is where we both come and go. It's fine, it works for us. We've got our driveway right here so we can bring in material and take it out. But what we needed to do is yesterday, Juan and I took this incoming area, which is a mix of aged compost and fresh greens for the hens, moved it off to the side so we've got a nice smooth ramp. We can take a wheelbarrow down into here and start harvesting this out. It might be hard in the video to convey what's actually happening, but this is probably 2 or 3 truckloads worth of compost that needs to leave. And we need to do this sooner than later because this will be where incoming leaves from this fall's leaf bag collection will be dumped initially. We'll share more notes in detail when we get there, but we kind of need to clear the deck of this nice, beautiful aged compost before we can get that coming in pretty soon. And you can see it's a windrow here that carries back over to the winter run, which we will be renovating. We'll make some time in the next week or so before it gets cold again. But this is all compost that needs to leave as well. And then slightly less aged compost, you can kind of see the color change. There's a lot more seed in here. And so the hens are still really actively involved in scratching this apart and getting all the sprouts. You can see the actual wood chips in here. So this is kind of middle age compost. And then we've got our now renovated and cleaned up raw beginning compost back in the corner here. And this stuff is piping hot. Some of these hens are sitting on here in order to warm up in the morning. So the flow system is working well, but critically we need to move material through in order to have room for the next. A few days ago we got a lovely wood chip pile delivered from our dear friend Keith. Keith, thank you so much. I look forward to getting you some trees when the timing lines up. And our friend Andrew was visiting for a few days, and early in the morning, one of the days we spent the morning loading up wheelbarrows and bringing it into this chicken area. It's probably about 10 or 12 cubic yards of fresh raw wood chips, which is hugely helpful in the fall. This walkway was a pretty muddy, gooey mess for a while, and with a nice thick layer of wood chips on top, it's going to help tidy it up, keep it firm, make it easy to move the wheelbarrow through. And we identified some pockets where sprouts were coming through really nicely. And so we put less wood chips there so that they actually can sprout up and green up, and they can get a little bit of maybe pseudo pasture out of the deal. There's little pockets that still remain now. You can see this is all just from seed that we've soaked, that we put down. And so they're sprouting, and they get all the benefit of the sprouts. They get the greens, and then earthworms and red wigglers are attracted to this as well. So the walkways can become a really functional compost component, but also be tidier and more carbon rich, so that it keeps the aromas down, keeps the traction really good, and improves things overall. Still a little rough looking, but whatever. We upgraded the area here where fluids are in the system. We've got little waterers for the babies. There's a couple little babies left that like the safe, simple water, or normal water there, and then a tray of milk. And I just cleaned out an area that was out of our pathway and put this old pallet there so we can get this material up and off the ground. I realized when I was first pouring some milk into a container that I cleaned that it had some holes in it, so we set it up as a temporary, we'll call it a fondue, an old milk fondue fountain for the hens to enjoy. This is old raw milk and absolutely lovely material for the hens to enjoy. A lot of the work was spent back in this corner refurbishing our composting flow. The initial compost deposit is right back in this first bay, and we were running low on carbon. So most of the wood chips, wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow load, were coming into here. And you can't really see it as clearly now because the hens are doing what we had hoped they would do, which is to integrate the wood chips automatically. We focus the deposition of our carbon, the wood chips, on the boundary of this incoming compost area. So the nitrogen-rich, nutrient-rich, fluid-rich materials went to the center of the pile, go towards the center, the carbon on the edges, and the hen's activity continually sends carbon down in a low, slow, steady way back onto the high nutrient load material. So they automatically mix it for us. And then if we were to get intense rains out of nowhere, leaching an excess nutrient is caught by a thirsty, hungry sponge that is the carbon of the wood chips on the boundary. It's a mantra with compost pile building of bowls, not domes. You want to have a bowl of carbon in any composting system rather than a dome of compost when you first lay it out, and that reduces the leaching. The hens put an incredible effect on the incoming compost. They already have eaten almost all of the raw ingredients in here, all the rices and meat and lettuces and whatnot. And so now that they've integrated the wood chips into there, it's easier for us to just harvest this and bring it to the next area. And now that we've got the ratios right, we have less excess nutrient, we can pile it up so that they can kick it apart. So the incoming, where it's really raw and the stakes are high, we want to really be able to catch any excess. And then once the ratios are correct and we're ready to have them really interact with it again, we pile it up and they kick it apart, each time moving a little further. That's been the case for years, and it's worked incredibly well for us. And once it feels like it's starting to mellow, we can bring it to this area, and it begins that finalizing process of moving down the line, and ultimately leaving. And we've talked about that a number of times, and that basic idea of a flow pattern in the system, I think, stands as a very reasonable baseline for a chicken composting design. The really great reminder with all this that I always like to say is that every time you get it wrong, it's an opportunity to move materials around, and the chickens absolutely love it. So try something, get it wrong, move it all around, and your hens will thank you for the mistake. We are relaying out this whole system in little subtle ways all the time. Each time it's an opportunity for the hens to interact more with the compost. I'm excited to bring some energy back to this carport winter run. I think we do need to get some more black locust into here and build out an actual end wall on the south side and the north side, reinforce that side, do some other work, take apart the last of these random arches from when it was a cattle panel winter run. But that'll be something we'll share in another video when we get to it. And then this really ugly, fine enough pile of hay underneath that beautiful blue tarp. That's gonna get redone. We have some cattle panels, 4 of them from when we used to have a winter run here. I think Juan and I will build a 2-arch or a 3-arch cattle panel hay storage system. We'll share how that comes along once we make some time on that too. For now, that is the long update in the late fall here. There's little mama with her 4 little babies. We'll see how they evolve over time. They're interesting small breed, and they're integrating into the system into some nice ways. The other hens have been really nice to them, so that's sweet. This is their little hangout zone back in here.
I think they should really have much gap.
You just drop it, because then it dumps right out.